Pauline and then Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Leanne. Look, most of it's been said, I think, by now, and so I'll try and help Jimmy out by only taking 30 seconds. I'd once again like to congratulate the consultation document, because it's in plain English. It's really good for people to read that and understand the situation at council here and where their money's going, where it comes from, what it's prioritised for. But it also contains enough financial detail for people to really get into it if they want to. So I really hope this will encourage the Christchurch residents to make a submission and to feel confident that the time they invest in coming in here and talking to us will be recognised. As it was last year, it was a good process last year, and we all really enjoyed people coming in, and I think we proved last year that we really did listen. So I'm pleased to see community facilities are highlighted along with water quality, and they're both close to my heart. So you can see spirits are lifting as we see the progress with our new city emerging and new homes being built. And this will of course increase our rating base, which will continue to improve our books over time. And of course we need to prioritise the earthquake repairs so that we can actually get past it all, start to see some improvements in our local communities and our footpaths and streets, that sort of stuff that's really day-to-day affects people. Get past that so we can continue to move on. So thanks again everyone for all the input on this, and just to reiterate Councillor Livingston's words, the collegial way in which we have all worked through to this point, and I think that's really important to stress that this has been a really Thank you.
Tim?
Thank you. Well, I should get braver and go first because everything's really been said, but I just want to say 2.5 years ago pretty much a new council was elected, and we walked in the door, and shortly after that a statutory manager was brought in for building consents to take control of that, which is a cornerstone of any council. So we have gone a long way. And I think Leanne pointed out that end of last year there was a hump, and it seemed we got over it, and I think with the insurance payouts, and I could go on about the better dividends being paid, and hopefully that trend will keep going. So not only have the city been through a huge change, but our staff has as well. We've got a new CEO. They've had a number of structural changes, and I just want to thank them for the work that they have done on this document along with us, because we are the councillors and our staff work together, and there's been a huge amount of work done on this document, and I'm really proud to be able to support this. I think, as it was said before, I really am looking forward to the engagement with our public on this document. As you pointed out, Pauline, I really like the consultation document. It is clear, it is simple, but it also outlines the implications of the changes that we are proposing, and I think that's really important. So thank you all very much for a great job done.
Phil and then Jamie.
Look, so I think a key point in the success of this is the work that's been done, as has been said, by staff, but it's particularly around the capital program, and in fact how much that can be reduced in terms of what we as a council can actually deliver. So I think we're all really pleased to see that as a key part of the equation. I want to comment on some parts of the consultation document. I think it's a really good document. The section on cycleways, just to be clear, I think we actually knew that in fact to deliver these would take 7 years. So to most people that won't be a surprise. The consultation processes, the whole process of having to acquire land and often building new curbs and channels, all that takes time. And so and the key thing, as Vicky Buck referred to, is that the cycleways need to be safe. And that's what we will deliver. The other area I wanted to comment on in the document is around the Northern Arterial and Cranford Street. There's no question that in fact, yes, there's more money had to go in the budget. Part of that was due to the downstream effects which now have been included and which we as a council are already clear on. So although, and I think it was good that the community board and the local residents association brought those concerns to our attention. But we're going to get better transport as a result. And the only other thing, and I'll refer to it later, is around the amendment for the car parking fees on Hagley Park. I'll certainly be discussing that later too.
Jamie?
Thanks. Look, where will you be on the 24th of March 2026? It's pretty hard, you know. No one really truly knows what you're going to be doing in 10 years' time. And we're put in an awkward position, I suppose, where we have to do a long-term plan. It's a legal document and it's a 10-year plan. That's what we need to say where we'll be as a community in 10 years' time. Now we have a bit of information there to make an educated guess, but it's all it really is, and it's trying to take the aspirations and the dreams and the hopes of the community, couple that with the financial realities, and try and put a flight path together. The reality of the annual plan is it's the deviations, it's the amendments to that long-term plan, because as things get closer, you have better information, priorities change, circumstances change, facts become clearer. So I think that finding that balance with the information that you have is never an easy task, but it's been said how well I think we've worked together as an elected body of colleagues with our staff and with our community to try and put our best foot forward. We've made some pretty shrewd decisions, tried to make some hard calls around the need to haves versus the nice to haves. No one takes pleasure in doing that because everything's important. We want everything now, and ideally it doesn't cost anything, but that's just not the reality. So I think what we've got in front of us, the draft annual plan, is something that's pretty upfront. I think we've been pretty upfront with our community around the capital release program. I think we've been pretty upfront with our community around the capital program. And finally, the only point I want to make is that I think we now need the community to be pretty upfront with us, tell us if we've got it right. We don't get everything right, we try to, but we're pretty useless if we don't have the help from our community, and ultimately we're there to be a conduit for them to help our community get the Christchurch that they deserve, the Christchurch for Christchurch by Christchurch. And that's why it's called a draft annual plan. So we're going in there with good faith. There's been a lot of hard work, but there's still a lot to go, and it has been said, but it's important to note that the work from our staff around this has been incredible. It's not taken for granted, it's appreciated, and I've really enjoyed working with my colleagues around this. So look forward to going through the process and hearing back from the community, because that's the exciting part.
David?
In 10 years' time, I doubt whether I'll probably be still around the table, but I'm certainly very supportive of adopting this annual plan and moving the city forward, and I probably adopt the attitude that what I'm contributing to is probably going to be for the benefit of my grandchildren rather than myself. So, look, I really do endorse a lot of the sentiments that have been expressed already today, and particularly the cooperative manner in which this plan has evolved. I particularly give support to probably the four cornerstones of our annual plan changes this year: the reduction to the capital program, lower borrowing, delaying and further capital release, and a lower increase in rates. So, look, I'm very pleased that we're putting this plan out for consultation now, and I would like to see some good public direction, particularly on items like prioritising of road repairs, levels of service. I said earlier that today I think we probably need to adopt a different attitude in some of our levels of service, recognising different treatment that's needed in different parts of the city. And that's something that I certainly would endorse. I'm interested particularly in public comment on the glyphosate issue. That's going to cost this city $20 million plus over the next 10 years. So, and finally, just with the capital review program, there has been a lot of toing and froing with the Eastern Sport facility, and I do note that in our draft there's still a couple of errors. Page 27 still refers to Eastern Sport starting there's a diagram there in 2017, and on page 39 there's a reference to UPEX changes with regard to the capital review program relating to the aquatic facility. So there's still a little bit of tidy up to do there yet. So generally I'd just like to reiterate my support for the plan, and thanks for those that have, amongst my colleagues and staff, for the manner in which we put this together this year. Thank you.
I don't have much to add. I think we've achieved a lot in the last year. The insurance settlement obviously being a big piece of work which was completed. The capital program review, the operational savings, And I think just, we've created a sound and stable financial platform for the next 5 years, which is all about regeneration, and I think that's really where our focus needs to be. And I think this is a good draft annual plan, and I'm looking forward to hearing back from the community on, as Dave said, where their priorities are, where they'd like us to focus, the trade-offs between lower rates and spending now, and levels of service. So I think it's a good conversation, and feels a little bit like we're drawing a line under the last 5 years, and we can start to look forward with more optimism.
Thanks very much, and thank you very much for the quality of the debate, because it just really does reflect, I think, quite a significant, well, I was going to say change, but then it makes it sound like it's a negative, but it's not, it's a positive. It's a sense of maturity around the extent of the issues that we have to confront as a city, and I think that's great. And I think Jamie was quite right. The only reason that we've got an amendment, the only reason we've got a consultation document this time is because we're amending the LTP. And the only reason that we're amending the LTP is because there are significant changes to the capital program. This has a flow-on effect, both positive and negative, and that's something that we want to talk to our communities about. Yanni took exactly the words out of my mouth, because I'd written down what I wanted to say, which was to quote page 10, priorities for our capital program. These are the basis for the priorities that we've set. Now we want to hear from the community. Have we got those priorities right? We've said repairing or rebuilding facilities in the communities most affected by the earthquakes. We've talked about reducing flood risk. We've talked about reaffirming our commitment to the eastern suburbs so that we can get those levels of service even across the city. Ensuring that communities have good social infrastructure, prioritising the repair of our streets, pavements and curbing, because it was news to me that Skirt didn't cover pavements, and that really was a bit of an eye-opener to me, because it did explain to me why we had streets that just didn't have even one footpath that people could use, when they were trying to traverse their way down to the local supermarket or shops. And so I think that, in terms of the footpaths, seeing a perfectly, looking good to me, footpath being dug up on my way to the airport, and then knowing the extent of the damage still in the eastern suburbs, and out at Sumner and places like that, you sort of think to yourself, no, actually, Richmond, we've got to get those priorities right. And I really take on board what Ali said about the need to ensure that routine maintenance doesn't get so far behind that it doesn't provide for the amenity of the whole city. So, and that's a genuine concern, and that's what we're asking our community to feed back on in terms of the priorities. My view around maintenance, routine maintenance, or renewals as they're called, is that they can't be in a BAU framework, a business as usual framework. They need to stack up. They've got to stack up against the other damage that we're repairing within our city. And then, of course, the other areas of the prioritising spending on water quality and suburban regeneration, that's very much a passion, I think, for everyone around the table, is wanting to see that focus. The other area of the consultation document that I'd like to draw people's attention to are the coming year's issues and challenges on page 13. And basically what this says is that as a council, we want to find new ways of doing things. We want to explore different options for combining facilities or using standardised designs, opening our capital program to innovative delivery options. For example, sort of sending more work to the external market, Skirt and Development Christchurch. What are the different ways that we could deliver that could actually speed up the process, improving consultation, making greater use of early contractor involvement, and using more design and build contracts and alliance models. And I think where and when it is possible to go faster, that's what we want to do. But when we open it up to questions to our community, do you have suggestions about how we could deliver our capital program in a more timely and efficient manner? I don't want anyone to think that that's just directed at the residents. That's also directed at the contracting community, the development communities, and saying to them, come, we're open. Our door is open to new ways of delivery, new ways of thinking about how these projects could be better delivered, because if we can find the right trade-offs, then there's trade-offs that certainly I think everyone around this table would be certainly interested in hearing about. I know that some councillors have gone back to raise the question of the anchor projects, but I have to say that we were signed up to them when we arrived here. That deal was already struck, and how we get the best out of them for the benefit of the city as a whole. And actually, when you look at some of the ambitions around those anchor projects for the region as well, because they will have a significant impact on our economy, and that has a flow-on effect to other parts. I mean, I've made comments about the importance of the convention centre, which is outside our sphere of influence. But that precinct in its own right will catalyse the announcements around other hotel developments. It will enable us to win conventions and conferences that have been lost to us over the last wee while. So it is an important project, and it might look like it has no social outcome, but I guess that the benefit to the region as a whole is one of those that we would take into account. I think it's important that we don't misrepresent our ability to change things we can't change. We actually have to accept what is. I've had to suck up the odd bit myself, and accept what we can change and what we can't change. In terms of capital release, we never referred to asset sales as the only mechanism by which capital could be released to the council from CCHL, but all we can rely on from an auditor's point of view is the value of the shares, the value of those assets. And I was always confident that we would get to the position that we've got to now, but I'm worried that there's still a fundamental misunderstanding of what would have happened if we hadn't signed off an LTP last year. Because without reference to the value of those assets in our LTP, we wouldn't have got the sign-off from audit. And I don't know whether people fully appreciate the seriousness of that situation had we had to confront it. So I'm glad that it's been raised, because it's, I think, given me an opportunity to explain again that it is only the value and the assets that we can rely on. It's like we couldn't rely on an exact amount for the insurance recoveries because we didn't know what the insurance recoveries could be. We could only rely on what the audit office accepted was a reliable piece of information, which was an assessment. And fortunately for us, it was well under what we actually received by way of our insurance recoveries. So, and I wanted to close on the same point that Raf made, was that we're shifting to a new phase as a city, a brand new phase. We're going from recovery to regeneration. And to me, regeneration means two things. It means restoration and it means new growth. So it encompasses both of those concepts. And what an exciting future that puts in front of us for the next 5 years. It is a step change for the city, and we need to make it that. So this annual plan gives us the basis for doing just that. And I'm certainly looking forward to the feedback from the community so that we can proceed from here. And I'm now going to find out how we proceed from here. Right. So we're going to take a break now. So so morning tea will be here in about 5 minutes, and we've got some hard copies of the amendments and notes available to everyone. So if you can all have a look at those, and maybe do we want to take it till 10:30? Yeah, so we'll return it, we'll adjourn till 10:30.
No.
Thank you.